This is Talkback, 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO, Missoula's news and weather station.
Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Wednesday, October 23rd edition of Talkback. Talkback this morning is brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters, family owned and operated, offering free estimates. They take care of your gutter so you don't have to. Their number 406-240-2669, protecting the foundation of your future. Phillips Janitorial does both a business and home cleaning. No job too big or small for Phillips. Here's their number, 406-260-6617. Y West Storage is out at the Y on Two Smokes Way. If you need a storage unit, here's the number. You should have this in your phone already, 406-510-0590, because at Y West, they're making room for you. And by Harrington Surgical Supply, where appointments are preferred for mastectomy fittings, custom compressions, walk-ins, always welcome.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
Okay, we're going to be doing a best of, at least for now. So, Nick Christensen, you've got more details on what's going on there, sir.
The phone saga continues. We are working on it. I'm hearing an echo. I wonder why I'm hearing an echo. But anyway, we're hopefully going to be able to get those fixed within the hour or so. Our team's working on it. So Walt was supposed to be on from 8 to 9, but I just spoke with him and he's agreed to come on from 9 to 10. Hopefully if those phones are fixed by then, but we're just going to kind of play today by ear, and supposedly they should be fixed by then, but fingers crossed, we'll see.
So in lieu of you and I doing a song and dance for just talking to ourselves for an hour, we have a best of Talkback queued up for you.
Yep.
So we will enjoy that and hopefully get our phones back live in the 9 o'clock hour. So thanks for your patience. Here we go. Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024 edition of Talkback is underway. Talkback this morning is brought to you by Y West Storage out of the Y on Two Smokes Way. For pricing and availability, call 406-510-0590, because at Y West, we're making room for you. Phillips Janitorial, their number, 406-260-6617. If you have a business or a home or both, they do it all, and your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed at Phillips Janitorial. Also brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters, family owned and operated, offering gutter installations, and this season, gutter guards would be a good idea. Give them a call, 406-240-2669. They are protecting the foundation of your future. And by Harrington Surgical Supply. Feel confident in their discreet and knowledgeable guidance on a multitude of products and medical supplies. Okay, welcome aboard, everybody. This is County Talk, and we have a full house, including folks on the phone. So I want to say good morning to Adrian Beck, first of all. Adrian, good morning. Director of Missoula County Office of Emergency Management. How are you, ma'am?
Good morning, Peter. Happy to be with you guys this morning from beautiful Butte, America.
Aha! Hey. So that's what you're doing. All right. Dave Strohmeyer, Josh Lotnick, Juanita Vero, and also joining us in the studio, Matt Heimel, the planner and floodplain administrator for Missoula County. Welcome. Matt, you for the first time. How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
All right, so we are here to talk about the floodplain issue, the floodplain mapping update. We did get kind of a preview of this a week or so ago, and that's one of the reasons why we're really glad you're here today, because a lot of folks, there's a lot of clenching going on out there, because they're going to be redrawing the floodplain map, and so who should kick this off?
Who do you mean by they, Peter?
Well, whoever the admitted, isn't that Missoula County or the state?
Can I dive in and just set the stage?
Please do.
My understanding of this is not in depth. Matt is an expert, but I feel like I can adequately sketch out the boundaries of the story.
Okay, go for it.
So the state, that's the DNRC, Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, in partnership with the Federal Emergency Management Association, FEMA agency. Thanks. Are drawing up new floodplain maps. Floodplain maps have been in existence for many decades. The change right now is more around technology than anything else. When these floodplain maps were originally drawn, they had workers on the ground with transoms and builders levels measuring elevations, literally how high is the earth in relation to the water. Now this is done with LiDAR, which is like radar, but it's sent down from a plane. It's incredibly accurate. The maps will be much more accurate because they're done with this level of technology. DNRC and FEMA in partnership make these maps. The county has the opportunity to adopt or not adopt the maps.
Okay.
Super important thing here, though. If we don't adopt the maps, FEMA still does. It's their maps. And if there is a flood and damage occurs, we as locals look to FEMA for financial help. We saw this in the flood in, I think it was 2017, 2018. We also saw it to the tune of tens of millions of dollars in the pandemic. We do not have the resources to respond to major disasters. We need the federal government. We're seeing this in Asheville right now. If we say to FEMA, we see you guys made maps, but we don't like those maps, and we have a disaster, we are not eligible for their money.
Wow.
It's a big risk.
Seamless. Dennis Bragg with your updated weather. Increasing clouds this afternoon with a chance of rain and continuing through the evening from a passing cold front that will push temperatures back down into the mid-50s with overnight lows in the upper 20s, maybe the low 20s on Thursday morning again, and definitely the upper teens and low 20s again Friday morning. Some of those showers could be mixed with snow overnight above 3,600 feet. Not a lot of accumulation expected. Then sun returns Thursday through Saturday with more rain on Sunday.
If you served, we want you to get the health care and benefits you earned. We want you to come to VA.
There's never been a better time to apply. Under a new law called the PACT Act, we've expanded VA care and benefits to millions of people who served and their survivors.
No matter where you served or how long you served, check out va.gov/PACT to learn more about what VA can do for you and your family.
Come to VA.
Need to replace your Social Security card? In most states, you can request one online with a My Social Security account. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can also get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
We're continuing now with the best of Talkback. And no phone calls, please, but we'll try to have our phones restored by 9 o'clock. Okay, we are back. This is County Talk, and folks have been asking for County Talk for a while. I know because of your very busy schedule, it's very difficult for you to come here in person, and we really appreciate it. By the way, here. All right, so Matt, let's talk with you for a second. Tell us a little bit about Matt Heimel, if you would.
Sure. So I'm the floodplain administrator and a planner with Missoula County. I've been with Missoula County since 2019, in general with local government in the state since 2014, and really happy to serve the county and help people understand that flood risk is a very real hazard, but also something that we can work through to mitigate with either structural work or knowing where the best places for suitable growth is.
Now, can we talk a little bit about the process of redrawing these boundaries? This is something that the federal government is in charge of, and they work with the state and local agencies. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So one of the first things to recognize in the process is just how outdated the current floodplain maps really are.
Well, so how old are the floodplain maps? Right?
So current data is actually from the late 1970s, and our effective maps at this time are really based on mapping from the early 80s, and they were digitized in 2015. That just means they went from paper to electronic maps. And in addition to the better technology to measure the LiDAR that Josh mentioned, we should recognize that the rivers change over time. And the real lifespan for a good flood study is about 5 years. So we have better.
We're a little bit behind.
Yeah. So we have better.
Well, let's put it this way: we got married. My wife and I got married in 1980. We're coming up on our 44th wedding anniversary. It has been a while here.
Right. So with the better understanding of the amount of water, the hydrology, and the way that water will behave in a flood, the hydraulics, we can develop a more accurate flood study and a model. So whether or not we adopt maps or map the floodplain at all, the floodplain is there. The floodplain changes and presents a very real hazard. So by having these maps, we can have a very proactive look at what those flood hazards are. Property owners can know what that risk level is on their property. Anyone that wants to buy property can understand what they're really getting into and what kind of insurance requirements there may be, and also emergency responders and folks in Adrian's office can understand what we need to look at when we are planning how to mitigate those natural disasters.
So, go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, the new survey has been completed. Is that correct?
Correct. So back to the process question.
Yes.
In 2019, the LiDAR data was that was all flown and shot by airplanes. And then in about 2020, the hydrology and hydraulic study was complete with the state. And we've had draft maps. So we've had draft data that has an early look at what these floodplain maps can look at. And those have been out there. We've been helping people understand those maps. And now we're in a period where FEMA at the federal side reviews that data and vets it to make sure it's up to their mapping standards. The next step in this process is what is called a preliminary map product. So the preliminary maps are what are the most official early look that we will have. We are really hopeful that those will come out in fall, and then we'll have a lot of public notice and public engagement about that entire process. But that's the next step, our preliminary maps. Then throughout the rest of fall, winter, and spring, we have those maps out there for the public. We educate people. We meet with people. We go out to the meetings and talk about the maps. A lot of talking about maps. And then we would expect next spring and summer to have more like open houses with state staff present as well.
Well, I will tell you this comes at a time that's very difficult for homeowners, property owners right now, because property taxes have gone up, the property values have gone up. If the values go up, and that means the taxes go up, and so this is just another, if you will, another brick in the wall or another brick in the backpack for people who are in these areas, especially the ones who have not been in this area before, that find themselves, hey, we're in the floodplain. So, yeah, go ahead.
Right, and I think that could be a tough spot for people to find themselves in. But one thing I really like to highlight is, like I said, whether or not we have these maps, they are a floodplain. These models are the best data that we have to present what that flood hazard looks like. So it does present a proactive opportunity for some people to really think about what they want to have in certain areas of their property or how they want to treat it.
All right. So, all right, Adrian, did you want to? Go ahead, Adrian, please.
Well, I was just going to chime in to something that Matt just said, and that regardless of whether the county adopts these maps or there's new lines on the map, I think the important thing here is that people have always been in the floodplain, and what this does is it brings an awareness. And as I always say, part of our job in emergency management is helping people understand what they should expect. And so by bringing awareness to this flood hazard, certainly is an opportunity for people to take proactive steps to get better insurance, to look to grant opportunities to perform mitigation on their properties. And all of that is possible when the county adopts these maps.
And so for folks who find themselves perhaps in the floodplain for the first time, and you talk about mitigation efforts, how can the county help these folks? And once they discover, where on their property there is flood possibility, what can they do, Matt?
Well, one thing that I can help with just at a very high level is to talk with people, make sure that they understand everything, and also give some advice or recommendations for what to do. For example, if someone finds themselves that their house is in the floodplain maps, they can look at, say they have a crawl space with maybe some mechanical equipment down there. They can elevate those items to make sure that they're not prone to flooding. So there are steps people can take to make sure that their homes are reasonably safe.
Well, and maybe we might not have time right now. We can pick it up here in a second, but preliminary to even that would be if someone has a legitimate concern that they are mapped in a way that is not accurate. Right. I'm sitting on 1,000-foot bluff, and how could I be mapped in the floodplain or the floodway? Not to say that there's many examples of that, but that is something we should probably talk about, how folks can weigh in on that.
We are up against a break, and the phone lines are open, by the way. This is County Talk, and our county commissioners are here to talk to you. They are here waiting with their headphones on, waiting to get your calls and your thoughts about this specific topic of floodplain mapping update. It's coming out very soon, and the folks who are involved probably already know it. So give us a call, 721-1290, if you have a question or a comment or a concern or a worry or a fear. The information is power. And so if you would like to get the correct, accurate information about what's going on, give us a call, 721-1290. The phone lines are open, 1-800-568-5309. You can also use the KGVO app to send in your message. We'll be right back. This is the Best of Talk Back. Please, no phone calls. Welcome back to a Best of Talk Back. No phone calls for now. We're trying to get our phones restored for the 9 o'clock hour. We appreciate your patience. Hey, welcome back to County Talk. Phone lines are open at 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309. There, we're getting a call right now. But Adrian Beck is joining us on the phone. And Adrian, I do know that a part of your major responsibilities are trying to handle the possibility of a flood and how it's going to be not mitigated, but how you're going to let people know how to be safe in such an area. So tell us from your point of view how important this is.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to what I was saying earlier is that, that expectations management and being able to forecast what is likely to occur in a flood is really important for emergency managers, not only for kind of our pre-planning, but also for that response. And in the throes of a flood, helping us understand where water is going to go and where that next impact is going to be is critically important for kind of that in-the-moment planning that happens during a flood. And so, for example, in 2018, when we had relatively historic flooding for Missoula standards, we were relying on the floodplain maps that existed at the time, and the river did not behave in the way that we expected, which puts us just a little bit behind the eight ball. And what we found ourselves doing is running real-time models with the hydrology that we were seeing, and they weren't matching what our floodplain maps were showing. And so I look forward to being able to have better technology at our hands and better data in front of us to help make better decisions.
All right, we do have a caller on the line. Let's get Kevin on. Kevin, good morning. You're on with our guests on County Talk. What's your question, please, sir?
Well, good morning. I was wondering if somebody could please explain to a lot of us here in the county exactly how did money get put into the warming shelter when we didn't have a chance to vote on it?
That's not why we're here today. We're here to talk about the floodplain problem. But thank you for the call. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. All right, so let's continue on. Now, Matt, one of the things that is in the publication you put out is who's going to be affected. Right, and this is a rather large area of Missoula County. So if you wouldn't mind sharing just kind of where the floodplain is now and where it's going to be with this new map.
Great question. Thank you. So, so for Missoula County, the areas that we're talking about updating the floodplain maps for are the entirety of the Clark Fork River as it goes through the county, the Bitterroot River within the county, and also Rock Creek. So any communities along there would really be taking an interest.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would imagine one of the things about living, we call Missoula River City, right? Obviously, we've got rivers, we've got the Bitterroot, we've got the Clark Fork, we've got so many things going on here in Missoula, and everybody likes to, be close to the river, live near the river. It's a very attractive thing in real estate. You have a river view, that sort of thing. But what we don't think about is what's going to happen if a flood does occur, and the responsibility is ours to take care of that. So, anybody, go ahead.
Yeah, that sounds like an Adrian question in terms of a response. But before we go on, just to be clear, because I've heard some concerns from folks in the Swan, northeast corner of Missoula County. Sure. This process is not inclusive of that. Is that correct, Matt?
That is correct. So this process is only limited to the Clark Fork, Bitterroot, and Rock Creek.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Adrian, did you want to address the other question?
Sure. I mean, I think that, our natural amenities obviously draw people to want to live close to them, but they do pose a hazard. And I think that being able to accurately articulate what that hazard is and provide kind of what those expectations will be in a flood event helps people prepare, not only prepare for their home and their own safety, but ideally to perform necessary and quite frankly, most of the time, simple mitigation measures to protect their investment for when and if that flood does occur.
All right.
What are some examples, Adrian?
Go ahead. What are some examples, as Juanita said?
Sure. So Matt already talked about one of them, which is just bringing your appliances, your furnace, your water heater, anything that may be below grade up to an elevation that is above the base flood elevation. In some cases, and we have homes that are built this way in Missoula County. In the foundations themselves, they have what we call flood flaps that allow the water to flow through that foundation without actually inundating the foundation and then causing damage to the structure itself.
Good to know. All right, we have folks waiting on the line right now. Let's get Rich on the line. Rich, good morning. You're on with our guests on County Talk. Go ahead, please.
So is the new floodplain once in 1,000 years or once in 100 years, or what's the number on that?
So the floodplain that we're mapping is called the 100-year flood or the base flood. 100-year flood gives a bit of a bad picture because we're really talking about a flood with a 1% chance in any given year, otherwise called 100-year flood or base flood. We do have the 500-year flood elevations mapped as part of it, but the regulations and the insurance requirements only apply to the 100-year flood or that 1% chance flood.
Unless we're going to live 500 years, I bet. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry I interrupted, Rich. Go ahead.
Is that going to apply to the camping regulations for near the river, like the high water mark? Should we apply that towards that ordinance?
There are some different regulations about there that talk about high water mark. We'd have to really see exactly what that is, but I don't think for like general camping we look at it.
Rich, are you talking about camping regulations within the city of Missoula?
Or within
the camping regulations, I believe, say high water mark, which we were talking about with flood. So I would imagine those would relate and may impact each other according to the local ordinance, and your floodplain correlate to each other.
So the high water mark and the floodplain water elevations are different. High water marks are typically like a seasonal measure or something that's measured over a few seasons based on not necessarily the 100-year flood. So they are different.
All right, Rich. Thanks for the call. We're up against a break. We have Tom waiting with a question as well. And we have several phone lines open. This is County Talk. Our county commissioners are all here. Adrian Beck is on the phone. Matt Heimel, Planner and Floodplain Administrator for Missoula County, is joining us as well. They want to give you the information you need to help you prepare, because if you do find yourself in the floodplain, there are some things you're going to have to do. So give us a call, 721-1290. Get the correct information from the people who know, who are standing right here. So we're going to, and also on the phone. We'll be right back after this timeout. Again, this is a best of talk back. No phone calls, please. We'll try to have the phones open at 9 if we can get the phones figured out. Thank you.
Don't take.
Dennis Bragg with your updated weather. Increasing clouds this afternoon with a chance of rain, and continuing through the evening from a passing cold front that will push temperatures back down to the mid-50s with overnight lows in the upper 20s, maybe the low 20s on Thursday morning again, and definitely the upper teens and low 20s again Friday morning. Some of those showers could be mixed with snow overnight above 3,600 feet. Not a lot of accumulation expected. Then sun returns Thursday through Saturday with more rain on Sunday.
Welcome back to a best of Talkback. No phone calls, please. Hey, welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. This is County Talk. Our county commissioners are all here in the studio with us this morning. We appreciate that, along with Matt Heimel, Planner and Floodplain Administrator for Missoula County. Adrian Beck is also with us, and she is the Director of the Missoula County Office of Emergency Management. She's here to chime in as well. And Tom has been waiting very patiently. Tom, good morning. You're on Talkback with our guest. What's your question, please, sir?
All right, floodplain. What exactly is the floodplain. When do you take the elevation from the river, right? Because in June it's going to be high, in September it's going to be low. And how high of an elevation puts you out of the floodplain? And are these new mapping situations, are they planning on expanding the floodplain or reducing it?
Okay, thanks for the call, Tom. Very good questions, and Matt's writing them all down. Matt, what do you think?
Okay, yeah, so all good questions. So first, what is a floodplain? So in the most general sense, a floodplain is any area that can be that is not regularly inundated by water, that can be under certain weather phenomenon. Now, what we're working with in this program and the National Flood Insurance Program, as I said to our earlier caller, is the base floodplain, or that area inundated by water in the flood event with a 1% chance in any given year. And that probability is calculated based on certain volumes of water that are modeled in the entire watershed. So we calculate these elevations using something called the base flood elevation. The base flood elevation is that estimated water surface elevation in that 100-year flood. So even though that is correct, that the river surface elevation is different in June from September to other months or any other year, what we look at is actually this flood probability and this volume of water, otherwise known as peak discharge, in the actual flood event. So even though the water surface elevation is pretty low in a drought, we still have constant thresholds for what we will consider as different floods. And so other question was, what elevation would bring you above the base flood elevation or above the flood plain? And that would be being above the base flood elevation. So if land is above the base flood elevation, then it can be considered as out. However, there's a lot of nuance in that because areas can be mapped as within the floodplain, but there can be small areas within FEMA's map floodplain, that is those areas shown on the flood insurance rate map, that are above that elevation. People have some recourse in that instance. They can have a surveyor demonstrate that they are above, and there's different paperwork that they can apply for called letters of map change to demonstrate that.
So Matt, basically you're saying there can be islands of high water within the floodplain that are actually outside of the floodplain, even though the farthest line of the floodplain may be beyond their property. You know what I mean? Like an island of dry land inside of a flood.
That's right. And FEMA will recognize that, and there's a process for people to go down and show that those areas are out and therefore be taken out for insurance purposes only.
And presumably with the new mapping, there could be areas that were previously in the floodplain that are not now no longer, and other areas that were not that are.
When I heard the gentleman say, is it expanding or contracting? I would say it's changing. It's changing.
Tom was asking, what is the actual height? What is the elevation where they'd be out of the floodplain?
So that's a good question, and it varies across the entire river because as the river moves upstream, downstream, the base flood elevation will change with that.
The topography is not uniform down the length of the Clark Fork River.
So this is where visuals help a lot. And if anyone has questions or really wants to look at these elevations, it's all public. It's all out there. And they could always get in touch with me. I don't know if now is the time.
Yes, Bob. Give your phone number, please,
sure,
if you don't mind, or your email address. That'd be fine.
Yeah, if anyone wants to email for county floodplain, it's floodplain@missoulacounty.us. Just floodplain, FLOODPLAIN @missoulacounty.us. It's good I can spell floodplain at least.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah. I think we have time to get another call in. I believe it's Jeff is standing by. Jeff, good morning. You're on Talkback, sir. What's on your mind?
Good morning. Yeah, I just turned the radio on my way to work here. So, and I'm catching this. In 1990, I bought 10 acres on the Clark Fork just below the mouth of Rock Creek. Okay? And so I have river frontage. I got it surveyed. They told me you can build here because you're out of the floodplain. And I put my septic in and went through all the legal stuff with the health department. So it sounds to me like we're changing the rules now.
All right. In a situation like that, is he correct? Now, not necessarily changing the rules, but when you adjust the floodplain, what he was out of the floodplain, and now he might be in. So how does that work?
Right. The river changes over time, and as such, we need to change the floodplain maps. Doesn't necessarily mean that the rules entirely change. Sometimes we have to change just to adjust to the hazards that we know of at the time. For this specific instance, this is another great example where I would really invite to come and speak with me so that we can look exactly at what is going on here. Because while it is correct that the floodplain map changes, this portion of property could be mapped as in the floodplain now. Maybe there is some recourse, maybe there's some options for us to look at, or perhaps we need to really talk about how to take the new maps into consideration.
So you're willing to talk to people on a one-to-one, case-by-case basis?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Once they sit down.
I mean, what we're wanting to avoid is putting our heads in the sand as far as whether you are actually in the floodplain or not based on new data.
So one thing here I just want to be clear on, we are not making new maps.
Right.
We are mapping what's actually happened.
Okay.
This is a response to natural conditions. This isn't a set of people in an office making a decision.
And there's an
mean?
appeals process and an opportunity for ground truthing that's really important that people take advantage of.
Super important. And this gentleman may very well be outside of the floodplain. It could be that the elevations aren't accurate. He could challenge that.
Jeff, does that help you? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, we have another Jeff on the line. I tell you what, we're going to come right back. 721-1290 is our number. We'll get the other Jeff who's waiting on the phone, and the phone lines are open now. Please know that these fine folks are only here for another 18 minutes. So, and I know Josh has to skip out here pretty quick anyway. Yeah. So, give us a call, 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309 if you have a question about what's going on with the floodplain mapping update. That's why they're here. We're going to continue talking with them after this. This is a best of talkback. No phone calls, please.
Need to replace your Social Security card? In most states, you can request one online with a My Social Security account. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can also get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And now back to a best of Talkback. No phone calls, please. Hey, welcome back to Talkback. A few precious minutes left with our county commissioners. Again, we deeply appreciate their being here today, along with Matt Heimel. And now, before we get to Jeff's call, I know you wanted to address a specific point about the last caller.
Yeah, the last caller asked a really good question. This is
who was also Jeff.
Reflecting a situation where someone wasn't in the floodplain, the river has moved, the floodplain has moved, we're mapping that, and now they are in the floodplain. What do? Matt.
Okay.
Right, so these maps are not retroactive. So if somebody put in a septic system years ago or they built a house and they find that the new maps show that they are in a flood hazard area, it doesn't mean that they have to make changes. We're not requiring houses to be retrofitted just because they're in the floodplain maps when they might not have been previously.
Super important.
But it is important that they get flood insurance.
Well, if they have a mortgage, their lender may demand. This has nothing to do with the county or the federal government. This is entirely about the relationship between the homeowner and their lender. Their lender may look at the maps and say, oh my goodness, now you're in the floodplain. We own 75% of that house. We're the lender. We want you to get flood insurance.
I would imagine there are mortgage lenders out there that are proactive and looking at that and saying, okay, you get a letter saying, hey, from your insurance company, we need to update this because we have a financial stake in it.
And if we at the county adopt the maps, this person who's now in the floodplain and their lenders demanding they get insurance has access to much more low cost federal insurance.
Great. All right, let's get Jeff back on the line. Jeff, good morning. What's on your mind, sir? Please go ahead.
Hey, good morning. I think Jeff won, if I heard his question correctly. I think he was looking for a 50,000-foot view, at a 50,000-foot view question. As you look at the county, will that mean a net increase or net decrease in the floodplain for the county? I think that's kind of a useful place to start. And also, my question is, I heard you say that this is modeled data versus actual data. So you're using a computer model that says estimates what snowpack levels will be, or are you using actual data from the measured snowpack over the past 100 years or however far back it goes to estimate the high water level for a floodplain?
Let's let him answer that. Thanks for the call, Jeff. Yeah.
So with regard to the model, the hydrology data does take past conditions into account.
So that's actual conditions.
Yes.
And also this person said DNRC and FEMA are doing the work, not Missoula County.
Correct.
And then his first question about
net increase versus net decrease.
So as far as net increase versus decrease, I'll have to take another look at our numbers to get the full picture. But I know that for different reaches of the floodplain, for example, we do have, for example, for the Bitterroot River in the county, more structures, that is insurable structures over 400 square feet, being removed than added. However, when we look at the Clark Fork River in the county, there are about 200 more structures being taken out. It's really important to point out, though, that we have large areas where there's no change. So that's one thing we can get into are the numbers, but I also really invite people to come in and take a look at that with me.
Now, is there a place online they can go? They can see that right now.
Yes. These numbers should be on our MissoulaCountyVoice.com.
Okay.
However, if they're hidden or not easy to find, I'll make sure that they are easy to find.
All right, sounds good. All right, Skip is up next. Skip, good morning. You're on with Matt and our county commissioners. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Peter, and good morning, Matt. And I live down here in LaValle County, but I thought I'd ask about people that own property that have existing septic systems. At least down here in LaValle County, occasionally we have system failures. And because of the what we have as a DEQ4 rules, they're allowed to have a replacement system. If somebody failed that was not in the floodplain before, but now is under your new calculations, are they going to have a right to put in a replacement system? And if so, is it going to automatically be elevated to a stage 2, for instance, or do they have to redo all groundwater monitoring or something before you allow that? It's going to affect a lot of different people in different ways, especially if people were planning on a family transfer of and make a subdivision in their property, and then all of a sudden now forever, according to the new map, it has to be for livestock only. Something like that. Can you delve in a little bit?
That's a lot of variables, Skip. Let's let him answer that. We're running short of time, so go ahead, Matt, please.
So I think with regard to replacement of septic systems, that really is handled by the city county health department and the sanitarians there. As far as the septic replacement regulations, I cannot speak specifically to that right now. I think that's a really good question to get in touch with us specifically about.
So there's a distinction to be made, perhaps, between not being retroactive for existing infrastructure, wastewater treatment, and perhaps modifications, new structures, new wastewater systems, and that's where we need some more information, probably site-specific information, whether you could do what you're wanting or whether there would have to be modifications because you're in the floodplain.
And you had just mentioned that people who have septic systems or whatever now, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have to dig everything up and start all over again, right?
No, not at all. And this gentleman asked a really good question because people's septic systems over time do fail, right, and they're required to, depending on which county they're in, et cetera, I guess this is state law, to have a replacement drain field. Could you access your replacement drain field if it's in a floodplain? We'd have to check with the health department.
You bet. We're going to come right back. We have Mark waiting on the line and a very few precious minutes left. And again, thank you to our county commissioners for coming on down and bringing Matt and of course Adrian Beck with us as well. We're going to come right back after this time out. And remember, this is a best of talkback, no phone calls, please. To a best of talkback, no phone calls, please. Okay, we are back. We're back on Talkback. County talk going on right now, and a lot of county talk going on during the break. But we want to get Mark's call on as quickly as we can. Mark, first of all, thank you for holding, sir. What's your question?
My question is, in 2012, I live in Florence, and I have 8 Mile Creek runs through our yard. In 2012, we had a flood, and my wife and I had to do sandbags and stuff. And since 2017, we haven't had any really bad runoff because our water comes from the snowpack off the Sapphires. And we do have 2 residences upstream, east of us. They have water rights, and they collect, I guess, the water, and we get the runoff from them. Because I still have a mortgage, and I was put into getting flood insurance. And I even paid for Mountain Plains LLC to come out and do a survey thing. And I never really got a letter back other than just a bill on it. But since then, we haven't had any runoff. This year, the runoff was maybe a day and a half. That's it. And I also think, with the snow levels, because, I pay attention to the Sapphire Mountains and the Bitterroots. The snow level, all the glaciers and all the snow was all melted off of there. So my question is, I don't know whether if I could be looked at to be revamped to see is there an appeals process? Basically, is that what you're asking, Mark? Is there a way to appeal this? Yeah, or have someone come out and readjust to see what we deal with. Sure. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for the call. Go ahead, Matt, please.
Yes. So for the Missoula County mapping process, there will be a appeal process. We're some time away from that. More information will go out, but there will be a process for appeals. And even after maps are effective, there is recourse for property owners to either hire a surveyor or demonstrate that they are above. I'd invite also this caller to get in touch with me. I'm also wondering if it might be a Ravalli County specific question.
Mark,
what county are you in, Mark?
He's gone. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he said he lives up near the Sapphires, so I'm assuming he's not in Missoula County.
Well, and the other important point, we were talking about this a little during the break, is that there is a high degree of variability. So in terms of snowpack, weather conditions, we might have several years of drought, and your creek might be running dry. But look at Red Lodge, 1,000-year flood 1 year. Fire the previous year.
Exactly. Now, real quickly, we have about 3 minutes in our time left together. So let's talk about the most important salient facts here. The new survey has been done, or it's being completed, and people can look at it and see if they're in the floodplain, and if they are in the new floodplain, they need to take action. So what do they need to do?
Right. The updated floodplain maps are a more accurate representation of flood hazards that everybody should be looking at and taking pretty seriously. I really encourage people to get in touch directly with my office, the county planning office, to take a look at this and make sure that they understand what is going on. One thing that everyone can do, we talked about structural retrofitting a little bit before, but also although there are instances where flood insurance can be required if there's a mortgage, flood insurance can be the best way to protect one's investment in the wake of a flood, because homeowners insurance does not cover flooding. So flood insurance, especially that provided through the National Flood Insurance Program, can protect one's investment. It's not only available to homeowners, but also renters can have contents coverage. So definitely look into flood insurance if you find yourself in a flood hazard area.
Now, you had mentioned, Dave, that it's significantly less expensive to do this through the federal agency. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes. So this is a way of being proactive.
Yeah. So is that true, Matt?
Yes. And one thing I'd also like to point out is it's common for me to hear that the whole reason we're doing this comes down to having people pay for flood insurance. The way I see it, it really comes down to making sure that we have floodplain stewardship. We are stewards of the floodplain on the county end. We're partners in a whole comprehensive floodplain management program to make sure that everyone involved, whether it be the county or different environmental agencies or property owners or agricultural groups, that everyone understands that we're all part of this river system, and that we need to make sure that we're also mitigating impacts, make sure that there are no adverse impacts, but also everyone has a common understanding of what's happening. So there's a lot of information out there that some people might be seeing. So please always feel free to get in touch with county planning office or the city planning office.
Yeah, we need some contact info. We have exactly 1 minute left.
What's that website again?
Yeah, website, phone number, everything.
MissoulaCountyVoice.com. Also give a call to the county planning office, 258-4657, or email floodplain@missoulacounty.us.
Now, if we go onto that website, we'll be able to see what you brought with us today, right?
That's right.
All right, excellent. Well, gentlemen and lady, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. County Talk is great. So is City Talk, and it's an opportunity that we have here to. Oh, we have another caller.
I'll just say thank you.
Adrian, I'm so sorry. I'm looking away from the phone. Adrian, thank you for being with us.
Thanks, everyone.
My pleasure to be here today.
You bet. Any final words from you, ma'am?
No, I mean, I think that Matt wrapped it up and took us home really well. The last thing I would say is that, we can learn a lot from history.
This is Talkback, 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO, Missoula's news and weather station.
Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Yes, indeed. We are live today on this hour number 2 of Talkback for Wednesday, October 23rd. Talkback this morning is brought to you by Harrington Surgical Supply, where you can feel confident in their discreet and knowledgeable guidance on a multitude of products and medical supplies for you and your family. Also brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters. They are family owned and operated. Give them a call. They'll take care of your gutters so you don't have to. Call 406-240-2669. They are protecting the foundation of your future. Y West Storage is out at the Y on 2 Smokes Way. If you find yourself in need of storage, the number to call, 406-510-0590. At Y West, they're making room for you. And finally, by Phillips Janitorial. They offer both residential and commercial cleaning, both your home and your business. They do it all, and no one does it better. Give them a call, 406-260-6617.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
Okay, here we are. It looks like we are live today, and a big thank you to all of our wonderful listeners for your patience. We came in at 8 o'clock this morning, and the phones hadn't been updated yet, but it looks like I believe we have our very own Walt Kero, our resident CPA, joining us on the phone right now. Walt, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Doing fantastic, and it's such a relief to hear your voice.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad to be here. Although I'm in the middle of a webinar, but the webinar is in Nashville, and I can sit here and watch.
Aha. Well, good for you. Well,
talk.
Yeah, it's good. But it's good to have you here, sir. For those who don't know, Walt Kero is with the Kero Byington and Associates, and Walt joins us on a regular basis, a couple times a month, to provide general tax information as well as pretty cool commentary on things that are going on in your world, especially as it deals with taxes with your very famous stack of stuff. So we're thrilled to have you, sir.
Oh, great to be here. Anyway, hopefully the phones are working like you. Nick has indicated, and we'll go from there.
You bet. So we are ready to rock. So if you have a question, if you've been saving up, if you haven't had your Walt fix for a while, give us a call, 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. You can also use the KGVO app. The Message Us button is perfect for getting messages to our Talkback guests, as well as listening to KGVO anywhere in the world, and that's one of the reasons why we appreciate it so much. Okay, so we're waiting for the phones to light up with people with questions. So Nick Christensen is over there in his assigned spot where he is producing Talkback, taking your phone calls, and looking over at the phones, waiting for.
Walt has a stack of stuff.
Yes,
so,
well,
yeah.
I was just looking at item number 1 here. Yeah. And the stuff about Social Security. So we have changes, some changes that may be advantageous for those who are getting Social Security.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things that's involved with this stack, this portion of the stack of stuff. First, people that are on getting Social Security, the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, for next year will be 2.5%. So you will see an increase in your Social Security payment of that amount. Now, that being said, if you're on the other side of Social Security, where you're paying in, if you make they've increased the amount that you pay into Social Security up to the base amount for paying into old age benefits. That portion is $176,100. So
I see Nick wincing over there because
no, I'm not going to say
that. Nick makes $176,100.
That's a week.
If that were the case, his Social Security withholding from his paycheck would be $10,918.20. And in addition, Town Square Media would match that. So a person making that salary level will pay in a combined amount of $21,836. So that's a huge amount of money. And there are folks out there, mostly politicians, who don't know exactly what's going on, but they think that cap should be removed. And when I say the cap, the $176,100, that should be removed, and their all salary should be paying into old age benefits. And that's always brought up from time to time, but it doesn't get approved. Right now, the Medicare part of Social Security does not have a cap. So if you made $1 gazillion, you're paying into the Medicare fund, and your employer matches that. So, and that's 0.045%. Anyway, that's a little bit of tidbit. And of course, this time of year, the Social Security and the government does this every year, where they announce inflation adjustments or cost of living adjustments.
Yep. We're up against a break. By the way, the phone lines are open. And so as you can tell, because Walt's on the phone with us all the way from Nashville today. So if you have a question or a comment, something you'd like to share with Walt, because, he is a regular on our program and we're thrilled to have him on once again. The phone lines are open now, 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309. You can also use the KGVO app. We're coming back with more with Walt and hopefully your calls in a moment.
Dennis Bragg with your updated weather. Increasing clouds this afternoon with a chance of rain and continuing through the evening from a passing cold front that will push temperatures back down to the mid-50s with overnight lows in the upper 20s, maybe the low 20s on Thursday morning again, and definitely the upper teens and low 20s again Friday morning. Some of those showers could be mixed with snow overnight above 3,600 feet. Not a lot of accumulation expected. Then sun returns Thursday through Saturday with more rain on Sunday.
Welcome back to Talk Back. We are live on this Wednesday, October 23rd. Walt Kero, our resident CPA from Kero, Byington & Associates, is joining us on the phone live this morning from Nashville. And we appreciate him taking the time to spend an hour with us to share his expertise and answer your questions if you have them. The phone lines are open at 721-1290. So let's continue with the stack of stuff. What else would you like to share with us, Walt?
Okay, the second item, number 2, and then we can go down to where the candidates stand on taxes. But number 2 is the corporate tax rate hits everyone, and not just the wealthy. That's kind of a myth that is out there portrayed by political hacks who don't understand economics very well. And the examples are Bernie Sanders and other people who seem to think that people aren't paying their fair share. One, it's almost impossible to come up with an agreed-upon definition of what fair share is. But the problem with corporate taxes is, well, yeah, corporations are evil and they're supposed to be thought of as such. But that in itself is an impossibility. Because the last time I checked, and Peter, you can confirm this, corporations don't have souls, do they?
Not as far as I know.
Yeah. In order to be evil, you got to have a soul.
Yeah.
So corporations are just kind of a legal created entity. But that being said, what happens? The Tax Foundation is my source for this information. But who shares the economic burden for the corporate tax? Well, the naysayers or the negative people would say, "Oh, corporations aren't paying their fair share. They're got to be bad." Well, corporations pay taxes because I know I've seen them write checks. I've seen where corporations write checks to pay the tax. The only problem is who shares the burden. And Trapper Mike was really good at bringing up the idea that corporations would pass that tax on. Well, if they can, and the corporations are subject to the marketplace, and to the extent they can pass on that tax, then it's great. But the problem is that's not always the case. So who shares the burden on when they raise corporate taxes? And the Tax Foundation says 2/3 of that burden is split between workers and consumers. So if you raise taxes, and that's one of Kamala Harris's tax points is to raise it from 21 to 28%. Well, 1/3 of that burden is going to be split, for workers, and the consumers pay it, and then the company shares the burden of that 1/3. So it's a difference between who's paying and who suffers the burden. And I think for most discussions, people who are going to be sharing the burden are the ones that are most affected. So whenever you hear the term fair share, run. And run as fast as you can, because stay away from that concept, because it's just dynamite.
All right, we do have a caller on the line. Harry is waiting to visit with you. Harry, you're on with Walt Kero, and thanks for calling, sir. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good morning, Walt. Yeah, just on the Social Security thing, they say about raising the level or doing away with it, but I know that it seems like it'd be. Well, let me put it this way. Someone's got to pay. They got to fix it somehow or other. So it's going to step on somebody's toes. And I think people that are making over $170,000 or whatever, it ain't going to be that big a drain on them as opposed to someone who's only getting $12,000 a year, and if you have to take away some of their benefits because they don't fix the Medicare Social Security. So yeah, it's someone's going to have to pay, and it's just a matter of who. Now, they can take away. Either you got to put more money into it, or quit spending. Benefits got to quit or lower. So it's like I say, it's going to step on someone's toes. And one more question for you, Bolt. Earlier this week or last week, you called in to somebody. I was a politician, or at least running for office, and it was you were saying how you thought it was a good thing to have. To have them let them know whether they're a Republican or a Democrat for the position. I forget what position they're running for. But the thing is, I'm just curious. When you on your ads, do you put CPA Republican, Walt Kero Republican when you have on your website, or if not, why not? Since it would let people know who you are.
Or would it be better to be conservative or liberal?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or is it just that it doesn't matter being a CPA? And I would think the same thing with a lot of office holders, that it doesn't matter. So I'm just curious. Do you put Republican behind your name on your ads?
No. And the reason is because, one, my firm is kind of middle of the road, and I myself, I consider myself a fiscal conservative, but I'm not a Republican. And so I've been at the legislature and I've testified for Democrat bills and Republican bills. To me, the bottom line is important to the taxpayers, and those are the people I'm most have the most affinity for. I won't say empathy, but affinity. So, anyway, hopefully that answers your question.
I think it's just that it's more important is that it doesn't matter whether what your political holdings are. You're doing a job for people, and that's what, whether you can do your job good is what really matters. So I think a lot of these, Secretary of State, or as long as they're doing their job, to me it doesn't matter what their political holding is. It should be what can they do the job. So
All right, Harry.
Hey, thanks for bringing that up. I wholeheartedly agreed with that. Results are what is important.
Yeah.
And going from there. One thing in regards to Social Security taxes is it gets to be a Pandora's box or a can of worms because back in the old days, and when I say old days, 30, 40, 50 years ago, Claude Pepper was a Democrat from Florida, and he was a champion of Social Security, and he would call Social Security a social insurance. But over the years since then, a lot of people consider Social Security a pension. I consider it both a pension and a social insurance program. So if it's an insurance program and you're wealthy and you pay into it your first $176,000 of salary, that's quite a chunk. And so is that the right thing to do? Is just to keep? Should they pay twice that much? Because arguably they are with their employer's match. So that's a big chunk.
Yep.
And I think it's at that level for a reason. The politicians and society have figured, well, for right now, that's the thing to do. And so to raise that above what they're doing now appreciably, or take the cap off, would have some serious repercussions. And usually what happens is you get the black market effect. And then you get things you don't want to have happen.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. By the way, the phone lines are open. Nick is waiting with an app question for you when we come back from the break. But all of our phone lines are open. Walt Kero, of course, we are live back on Talkback this morning. Thank you to the technicians for getting our phones fixed. We really appreciate it. And so the phone lines are open if you'd like to be on the show. 721-1290 is our number. Back after this.
Montana State News Network.
I'm Dennis Bragg. Bozeman police say the complicated nature of today's crimes is taking up a lot of department manpower and making it difficult to do more proactive policing. That's one of the reasons they're hoping voters will approve the first responder levy on the general election ballot in 2 weeks. Captain Joe Swanson says adding up to 30 additional officers at the rate of 5 per year would help the city deal with a problem everyone complains about, Bozeman traffic.
It's all over. We are aware. We are doing our best to get the staffing there that we can, and certainly that's what a lot of this staffing will be used for, of having a dedicated traffic unit.
Part of the levy will also fund hiring more Bozeman firefighters, also to meet the city's growth, along with a bond to build a new fire station. Montana continues on a robust pace of adding new jobs, with the Department of Labor and Industry reporting this week that the state added a total of 15,000 additional jobs in the third quarter. That continues the trend, which hit record levels last year when Montana's labor force hit a high of 580,000 workers, with more than 10,000 entering the labor force just last year. Lake County and Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribal officers are asking for the public's help to find a Ronan woman who hasn't been seen since October 8th. Lake County Sheriff Don Bell says 54-year-old Danette Tanas hasn't been seen since she had car troubles near Buffalo Bridge on the western edge of the valley. They're circulating her description on the Lake County Sheriff's Facebook page in hopes of hearing public tips that may help find her. Missoula leaders in the Montana Department of Transportation say they're proceeding with an extensive safety study for the state's busiest street, Reserve Street on the west side of Missoula. MDT says the effort will focus on crash data, traffic stats, and public feedback to develop a plan to make future improvements, which has been a growing concern among citizens groups over the past few years. This is the Montana State News Network.
For more on these stories and others around Montana, download the Montana State News app.
If I could be you.
And you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Here's a fun fact for you. The average chameleon can point their eyes in 2 different directions. On the other hand, the average human can't. So unless you're a chameleon, there's absolutely no way you can focus on texting and driving at the same time. So don't do it, unless you're a chameleon.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Where'd you get those shoes? Easy. They're from DSW. Because DSW has the exact right shoes for whatever you're into right now. You know, like the sneakers that make office hours feel like happy hour. The boots that turn grocery aisles into runways. And all the styles that show off the many sides of you, from daydreamer to multitasker and everything in between. Because you do it all in really great shoes. Find a shoe for every you at your DSW store or DSW.com.
We are back. This is Talkback. I'm Peter Christian, by the way. Nick Christensen over there taking your phone calls. He's a Talkback's producer, and we do have an app. Let's do an app question first. Let's do that. Nick, please go ahead.
Yeah, John said, I was wondering, Walt, what your thoughts are on writing a check to a local public school for a tax credit. You said, for instance, I wrote a $500 check to my local public school and get a receipt to show as a tax credit. Is this good, and does it work this way?
Oh, that's a good question. I know it would qualify as a tax deduction under charitable deductions. But the problem, I won't say it's a problem, the Montana tax laws, if you cross your T's and dot your I's and do it in a certain way, there's a Montana tax credit for that. But I don't right off the top of my head what those T crossings and I's dotting are. But it is a good thing to do, and obviously the legislature created that credit for just the occasion of supporting public education with non-tax dollars.
All right, good to know. We do have Mark waiting to visit with you. Mark, good morning. You're on with Walt Kero. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mark. See, I wanted to follow up on the discussion on the limits on payments for Social Security at $176,000. What if I'm employed and I take $100,000 in salary and $1 million in stock options? How does that get paid into Social Security? Or if I take deferred compensation?
Right. If the stock option is part of a deferred comp plan, then you pay into Social Security right away. Even though it's not paid to you, it's considered paid for purposes of Social Security taxes. So in those cases, if you had $1 million stock option plan that was included as deferred comp, then you just pay the Social Security tax on that cap of $176,100. The interesting thing is that when you exercise those options and trigger the income, that's when you pay the income tax, and you've prepaid the Social Security tax, and so that cap comes into play in that case. Is it good or bad? I don't know, but it just makes my life interesting because it's complicated.
So, if
that answer your question, Mark?
It does, but if I take deferred compensation, or let's say stock options, and the stock is worth $10 a share when they gave it to me, so I paid taxes on the $10 per share for Social Security. Yeah. And then when I take the options, it's worth $100 a share. So we have $90 a share in capital gains. you don't pay Social Security on capital gains.
No, you don't. No, you don't. But to the extent when you are given the stock option, and if it's a stock option plan, you're supposed to pay up to at least 85% of the market value at that time of the stock. And so if you sit on that stock for 5 years and it appreciates in value, that appreciation is capital gain, and you don't pay Social Security tax on that.
I just see that this as a way that people that have those types of compensation plans can work around paying Social Security on what is really their income.
Okay. Well, the answer is yes and no, because as I mentioned to you, there's dozens and dozens of various types of stock plans, and if you do it on a qualifying stock plan basis, in order to get the best tax results, you have to pay the Social Security tax up front. I have done that for a client because it worked out to his advantage, but you end up prepaying your Social Security tax right now. And so there's a penalty for getting that income in advance, although for income tax, which is different, you don't pay tax on that until you actually get the benefit of that stock plan. In other words, you get the
so you're better off taking
you sell it.
Yeah, so you're better off taking a lump sum up front and paying the max on Social Security, and then taking the bulk of it as capital gains at the end, because you don't have to pay Social Security. Yeah,
right.
I get it.
But the if you, like you said, you were taking $100,000 in salary now, and you got $100,000 of stock options, and that was the market value, or 85% of the market value of that stock at the date of exercise of that option, then you're paying that Social Security tax on that $76,000. You avoid the Social Security tax on the 24, but that's just the rules in play at the current time.
Yeah, there was a gentleman that was in, I think it was a business called Quicken, that was the CEO of that, and he took stock options in lieu of salary at the beginning of that when the stock was at pennies on the dollar. Then I don't know how you do this, but he basically put that stock into a Roth IRA, and it's now worth billions of dollars, and he's paying no taxes on it because it's in a Roth IRA.
Yeah, yep. That's just smart tax planning. But the thing is that you have to be careful of with stock plans and stock options and all that stuff is that here is what created the huge emphasis on those plans. Back when Bill Clinton was president, they put in a limitation on how much people could deduct on compensation to various people. And so the tax laws, even today, limit any salary above $1 million in terms of deductibility. So in the case of what you're bringing up, if they pay somebody more than $1 million, they can't deduct it. So what companies would do in exchange is say, well, we'll give you stock options in lieu of cash. And so you cause this disjointing, and so people look for other options. And so you create this huge amount of stock options and people playing games and all that stuff. And how did that come about? Because people saw, extraordinary compensation, and they didn't want corporations to be allowed to get that deduction. So that's an example of the highway to hell being paved with good intentions. It has created a lot of games.
Gentlemen, we're a couple, 3 minutes past a break, but I held John because it's a very important question. Mark, thank you so much for the call. We're going to come right back.
Thank you.
You bet. Walt Kero joining us on the phone right now. And if you have a question or a comment about taxes or Social Security, whatever, that's why Walt is here, is to answer those questions for you. The phone lines are open, 721-1290. We'll be back right after this. I'm going to give you a list. And we are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309. And we are thrilled, once again, I got a big thank you to our technicians for getting the phones back up. We appreciate it. But Walt is on the phone right now, all the way from Nashville. We appreciate him being with us today. And more folks on the line want to visit with you. And Kevin is standing by. Kevin, good morning. You're on with Walt Kero. Go ahead, please, sir.
Well, good morning, and Walt, please sample some of that bourbon there in Nashville.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Walt, question is, President Trump mentioned about Social Security. He said he wasn't going to touch it. That's kind of very vague on it. And as you know, and you could probably explain more than what occurred in the 70s when everybody was dipping into the Social Security, Congress and the IOUs. Now, I've been paying in since 74, since I started working, and, going to be, getting ready to retire here in a couple of years. How much of my Social Security got robbed, and is there any way that a presidential administration would be able to refund the money back to Social Security and maybe doing a retro interest, a compounding interest that was missed during that time? Or is that something that's just we all have to give up hope on that?
Can they do it after the fact?
Good question, Kevin.
Thanks for the call, Kevin.
And it's one that always just used to drive me nuts, is when Congress spends more money than they bring in and create larger and larger deficits. They have been using the excess cash from Social Security taxes that has gone into the federal government, and they write back an IOU in the form of a Treasury bill and a Treasury note. If Congress were required to follow the ERISA laws, which stands for the Employment Retirement Income Security Act of 1973, they would be put in jail for violating ERISA laws, because you cannot utilize all that money in a retirement plan for one thing. But Congress felt, well, this is a good thing, and we're going to do it. But the thing is what former President Trump is proposing with one of his tax initiatives is to not tax Social Security benefits. So if you're an old fart like me, and you pay tax on your Social Security, he is proposing a tax cut in the form that everybody who collects Social Security would not be taxed on that. So that's very specific and very straightforward to me. So I hope I answered your question.
All right. Thank you for the call. I believe Dan is up next. Dan, good morning. You're on Talkback with Walt Kero. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Dan.
Good morning. I am 69 years old, and I'm on Social Security. I want to get a job to subsidize it. Is there limitations on to how much I can earn without penalizing my Social Security?
I have good news for you. The answer is no, you're not going to get penalized. And the reason is because you're 69, you're getting Social Security, you're past what's called the early early Social Security penalty, and that's between the ages of 62 and whichever is your normal or regular retirement age, which is probably 66 years and 6 months or 7 months. I don't know. That thing keeps changing. So, and did you start collecting Social Security at your regular retirement age?
I started early.
Oh, at what age? And when did you start collecting?
It's at the earliest I legally could. I think it was 65.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a difference because the early retirement is age 62, and if your normal retirement age, I'm going to be 75 in next May, but I took regular retirement, and for me, regular retirement was at age 66. And the reason is that between 62 and 66, if you make more than, say, $15,000, $20,000, they penalize your following year's Social Security benefit. So because you're 69 and a half now, you've gone beyond that time period, and you shouldn't be penalized for going back to work. It's just between early retirement and regular retirement. And because regular retirement now is on a sliding scale, it changes every so many years by a month. But when I was 66, that was my regular retirement age. So anyway, I hope you got any more questions?
Nope.
All right.
That was it.
That's perfect because we're up against a break.
Okay.
Your timing is exquisite, Dan. And Walt, we're going to come right back. We have an app question waiting for you as well, and more phone calls coming in. And this is why we're here. So Walt can answer your questions. We appreciate him making himself available. We're going to come right back. I get more of your calls and that app question with Walt Kero right after this.
Need to replace your Social Security card? In most states, you can request one online with a My Social Security account. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can also get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Hey, we are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309. Walt Kero joining us on the phone right now. And Nick, we have an app question.
Yeah, there's three from the same person, Walt. So Bobby wanted to know, what are the changes to the Montana tax code for 2024? Then also said, can we no longer file married, filing separately? And will Montana ever stop taxing Social Security benefits?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just try to take those in reverse order. Montana will follow the federal law in taxing Social Security benefits. In 2024, this year's taxes, Montana had a radical, I won't say radical, but huge tax reform. And the tax reform is that as you file on your federal return, so you shall on the Montana return. So if you file married joint on federal, you're going to be required to file married joint on Montana. But don't fear that, because Montana is going to adopt the same standard deduction as the federal. So a lot of things on your federal return are going to plop over onto your state return. Most people will see a small tax decrease on Montana as a result of these changes. Some people will see a tax increase, but it shouldn't be huge. And there will be some out-of-the-way examples, some outliers that will see a big increase and a big decrease, but we're talking a small percent of the tax-paying public. So I consider it good news because it will simplify Montana filing. And Montana filing used to be a real headache because of married filing separate. You would have to track your itemized deductions and report them separately. And we got to take advantage in certain cases of separating income between a taxpayer and their spouse. So there's a lot of changes coming on the 24 Montana return. There were 6 major changes. Several tax credits were repealed. Several deductions were repealed. It aligns the filing status, as I just mentioned. The filing threshold status increases, so you won't have to file Montana returns if you're in that threshold. There's new tax brackets and rates. The rates went down slightly from 6.75% to 8%. And Montana taxable income, there's some calculation changes there. But huge change, but the bottom line shouldn't be drastically different. But there will be, if you're preparing your own return, you're going to notice a lot of change, but hopefully for the better.
I did notice that one of the things that you had in your stack of stuff was Montana income tax simplification. So I always kind of step back a little bit when I hear a government organization talking about simplification. So what's that all about?
Okay, well, take it from me because I know the fellow is a CPA in Helena that's retired. His name is George Olson. He and I are good friends. He was instrumental in making this change.
Cool.
And George is smarter than I am, and he's a really good man. He worked for a firm called Galusha, Higgins and Galusha. This is an accountant's change that got put in place by the legislature 2 years ago, and it is simplification. You're exactly right, Peter, to get skeptical when you hear the word tax reform, but this is from an accountant's perspective simplification. And we used to have 40, 50 tax credits, and now we're down to just a handful. Just that exercise alone is going to simplify things. And politicians love tax credits because it's a way to buy votes from a constituency. And that's a problem with our tax laws these days, is they're socially engineered. And that's what creates complications and complexity.
You bet. And with that, we're up against our final break. It's going to be a 1-minute timeout. If you've been holding off, maybe, yes, the phones are working. If you have a tax question for Walt, you give us a call. We are live, and we'd love to have your call and get your question answered, your problem solved with Walt Kero from Kero Byington and Associates. Even though he's on the phone, he's got the answers. So we're going to come right back after this 1-minute timeout. Hey, welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. About 7 or 8 minutes left in our time together with Walt Kero, our resident CPA from Kero Byington and Associates, and we're thrilled to have him. So, okay, so we have gotten through maybe 3 or 4 of the things on your stack of stuff. What really important ones haven't we had a chance to visit with yet?
Well, I could just briefly go over where the candidates stand on taxes, both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And let me know which one you want me to go over first.
Go for it. It's up to you. It's a dealer's choice. Go for it. Go ahead.
Okay, well, we'll go through the Harris tax proposals. These are as detailed as they get, and my source is the Tax Foundation in Washington, D.C. The Harris tax proposals, the major business provisions are modeled as she wants to increase the corporate income tax from 21 to 28%, increase the corporate alternative minimum tax from 15 to 21%. She wants to quadruple the stock buyback tax which was put in place with the Inflation Reduction Act from 1% to 4%. That stock buyback tax is something we never see because it's a tax paid by corporations when they buy their own stock on the market. She wants to make permanent the excess business loss limitation. Again, that's a really complex subject, and talks about, we're going to limit how much business loss you can take. Limits, she wants to limit the deductibility of employee compensation much more so than what is done now. We just talked about that. At $1 million, she wants to reduce that. There's a concept out there called guilty tax. And the guilty tax is defined as the global, intangible, low-taxed income. She wants to double that rate from 10.5% to 21%. A quick example of the guilty tax is when Apple and various companies make their intangible income. They move intangible assets to Ireland, and Ireland barely taxes that income.
Yeah.
So
okay, now, real quick, Walter, I got to jump in here because we're running short of time, and the callers have started to show up again. So I want to get as many calls in as we can because people are looking for your advice. Yeah. Debbie is up next. Debbie, you're on with Walt. Go ahead.
Hi, I had a question on the 1099Ks. Has that been updated? I received one last year for selling $600 worth of stuff on eBay. And that does not match the IRS threshold of $20,000.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the companies will send those out if they're nervous or feel like they'll get in trouble if they don't. The IRS finally came up with a specific rule on the 1099K, and for 2024, it's going to be for those who get $5,000 or more. So now there's going to be a specific rule in place, and so if you only do $600, you shouldn't be getting them. Does that help?
Montana, that's Montana's. That I emailed the state of Montana Revenue Department, and they do send 1099s out for 600 or more. The 1099K.
Yeah,
for online sales.
Okay, now is this
Montana
for the
does.
K? For the
yes. eBay, Etsy.
Would you? What I would do is I would check with them in light of this $5,000 rule just came out. The IRS just adopted it. So I would think the Department of Revenue would follow what the IRS guidelines are going to be for the 1099K. That should be in the 1099K instructions for 2024.
Okay. I'm hoping it is because I did sell again. I'm retired trying to make a little extra income, and I was really surprised that I had to, or just because I sold a little over $600 worth. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you for the call.
Should we try to get? And let us know what you find out.
You bet. Should we try to get Jeff's call in, Dick? We have time? Oh. No, tell you what, Walt, we only have about 3 minutes left, and so that wouldn't give Jeff the time he needs to ask his question and you to give a good answer. So we have I mentioned about 2.5 minutes left. So your final thoughts from Walt Kero from a remote location. We appreciate you being willing to be on the phone with us today. So what would you like to share with us before we let you go?
Well, the last things that I'll mention are from Donald J. Trump's tax proposal.
Okay.
And he wants to make permanent the 2017 tax cuts and keep in place the standard deductions, because if he does not win and Kamala Harris wins, then the tax cuts from 2017 will expire, and so we'll have a pretty good tax increase as a result. But he wants to exempt tips from income taxes, exempt Social Security benefits from income taxes, exempt overtime pay. and increase the itemized deduction for auto loan interest. All these things are going to cost the Treasury, and so I know that he's looking to tariffs to be an offset to those reduced taxes. So we'll let the voters make the decision on that and see what happens. But we'll have to be prepared in case whoever wins. Anyway,
you got
it. People can reach me.
Please do.
Are we ready for
yes, sir. Go for
downtown?
You bet.
Okay, people can reach me at 406-549-2288. We have a website, kbcpas.net, and we'll be willing to help you negotiate the tax laws. And I've been one of my numbers with the IRS went into suspension because they were afraid it was hacked, and it's taken me 6 months to get that all straightened out.
Wow!
So you think you have trouble? Boy, it gets even crazier when you're dealing with the IRS on a daily basis.
Walt, it's always a pleasure, and thank you for sharing your expertise. All of us appreciate it. You have a great day, sir.
Oh, hey, thanks, and good luck out there.
And the same to you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Nick, it's time for you. What's going on for tomorrow's fabulous show?
From 8 to 9, we'll talk with Ben Alke. He's running for Montana Attorney General. And then from 9 to 10, we'll talk with Judge Dan Wilson. He's running for the Montana Supreme Court.
All right, lots of politicking going on tomorrow, and we hope that you'll join us. Again, we appreciate our technicians working hard to get our phones back up. Thank you for all your hard work, especially working all night long. We appreciate that. All right, get out there and enjoy the day, and we hope to have you join us tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8 o'clock for Talk